Thank you for coming. We are here today to talk about the California Officer Wellness and Mental Health Grant Program. This briefing will take us through what it is and what the money can be used for. Also presented will be new ideas for using the money, including shifting agency culture as a framework for officer wellness. We have some police leaders here today who will speak about officer wellness, peace officer as a framework for policing, and why it's important to policing today. We have Chief Jim Bierman. Many of you know Jim, who is the former chief of Redlands, California, and the past presidents of National Police Foundation, now called the National Policing Institute in Washington, D.C. And Chief Pat Walsh, who is the interim chief in Menifee, recently brought back after he established the agency in 2019 as its inaugural police chief. So let's get started. Where did the grant funding come from? It came from the State of California Budget Act, the Mental Health Grant Program, Assembly Bill 178. How much did we receive? A list of how much each agency received will be put in the chat. 394 different agencies received about $700 per officer. You can see different agencies listed here and their amounts. Where's my check? The grant funding is being dispersed by the State of California Controller's Office. Contact the Controller's Office if you can't locate it. Yes, grant funds are restricted. They're restricted to programs and services defined by Penal Code Section 830.1. By when do I need to spend the money? The last day to spend the money is December 1st, 2025. You'll have to return it if you don't by then. What do I need to keep the money? You need to file annual reports at the end of December 2023 and 2024 and a final impact report. The funds can be used for establishing or expanding officer wellness units, services provided by mental health programs. Yes, you can purchase equipment such as Cybex equipment and other gym equipment that are based on having a successful track record. Can you pay for memberships? Yes, gym memberships such as yoga classes and wellness activities can be paid for using these grant funds. And yes, you can pay for training. It includes a direct program or services being provided to peace officers with a successful track record of efficacy. Using the Officer Wellness and Mental Health Grant Program funds to pay for cultural change is something that you can use to address officer wellness in the community. Why is that important? It's important for optics, it's important for impact, it's important for change, and that's important for opportunity. Expenditures, if you have any doubts about that, of the propriety, check with your legal advisor. So what do we mean by peace officer? We mean policing that is effective, empathetic, and just, as you can see here with the officer helping the man with shoes. Peace officer is effective, empathetic, and just, and we believe it's what people want in policing. Peace officer is not soft on crime or inconsistent with policing's legal mandate or a radical departure. Peace officer is smart on crime, aligned with values, community peacekeeping, and focuses on the commonalities between police and communities. We talk about nudging the culture of policing. Why is that important? Because peace officer is not a big change. In order to make any change in a large group, the idea of nudging it rather than shoving it in terms of the culture of policing is what will work. How is this different from law enforcement? It's more comprehensive. It's focused on facilitating peace in the community. What's in it for the cops? Increased officer safety, officer wellness, job satisfaction, and better relationships with management. What's in it for communities? Effective policing, empathetic policing, less harmful policing, the kind of policing we always wanted. So why use your officer wellness and mental health grant program funds to pay for this? Policing community culture directly affects your community. The evidence, police suicides, the leading cause of death. Culture and work environments are intertwined. So now let's take questions.
Pat, if you could just for a moment talk about the impact of culture in your view, in whatever words you want to use and however you want to talk about it, culture and officer wellness and the issues that are important to keeping the cops and the other employees in the agency healthy. I think that would be interesting for everybody.
Thanks, Jim. And I'm not paying you extra to say nice things about me. The $20 a week's all you're getting.
Dang! I was looking for 22.
So I see Charlie Five Code is on this call, and he and I are what I like to call we're cheaters because we started a police department. And what I mean by that is, when you're a police chief and you get hired into an agency, you come into a culture that exists. And if you're going to make that culture better or change it, you're a change agent. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so I've done that in a police department. My first chief job, I had to turn that ship around. It took me years. So when I got this job to start a police department, I was excited, but also very scared that, that night I went home, I thought, what did I just get myself into? And I realized the only thing that really mattered was culture. So I decided, this is the end of my career. This is it. I'm going to start a police department. And I did. I retired after 3 years. I'm interim chief right now. I've come back because the chief's off on medical. But culture was really all that mattered. So everybody that came into the department, we said, look, this is who we're going to be. And I just had some really basic criteria, but obviously be safe, have fun, and treat people with respect inside the organization, outside. And the cool thing is when people didn't do that, they don't work here anymore. So we have a really neat culture. And as a matter of fact, this morning when I came in, one of the officers got his smoker here, and he's barbecuing for everybody today. And that's just kind of, we've allowed our officers to have some carte blanche on making this place a better place. Everybody that comes in and works for me gets their own constitution, and I remind them that this is really their boss. And so we've already taken this money. So we have enough, we've received enough money that we are, we're going to use it for some training. Well, I'm going to allow the chief that when he comes back at the end of the month to do that, but we have enough money to do that. We pay an organization to come once a year. They take everybody's blood, do blood workup, give them a workout program. We allow them to work out on duty. They don't tell us, but whenever these organizations come in and they check everybody's blood, they find people with heart disease and cancer and stuff like that. And so, we're making sure we have this. Wellness is at the top of our list. We're paying for a psychologist to come in 8 hours a month and just to be available to talk with people. And we're also thinking about, we're probably we're going to buy a commercial grade refrigerator and stock it with healthy meals so that the officers can, at 3 o'clock in the morning, instead of going to In-N-Out Burger or whatever is open, or they can grab a healthy meal out of the refrigerator. And so, I don't know, I think that this is a pretty neat place to work. And I think Charlie probably he'll have the same experience because everybody took a risk coming here. They're all experienced police officers, CSOs, and records folks from other agencies. And, so we really work to keep our culture thriving, and the community, we're lucky the community really supports us, and they see how we feel about ourselves and they see how we feel about them. And so it's a nice, this has probably been the best place I've ever worked. So and it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the people I hired and their involvement in creating and maintaining good culture. I don't know, Jim, if that's what you heard.
That's exactly it. And I'll say the thing that you don't want to say, but it does have to do with you because leadership counts, and the tone of the organization starts at the top. If you ask almost anybody to ask you what the key characteristics are or were of the best supervisor you ever had or the best place you ever worked, my guess is it's going to be something like, they really cared about me. He or she really cared about me, or the organization really cared about me. I wasn't just a number, but they cared what happened to me. And so what Pat just described is an agency that cares about its employees and does so in a way that's communicated in tangible ways to those cops, to the workforce. And this applies, by the way, regardless of what aspect of municipal life you're talking about. In my own experience, I interacted a lot with the guys at the city garage and the parks guys and disposal guys for a lot of different reasons. And I always felt sorry for a couple of them when they start talking to me about, nobody cares about us. You got any openings for like a street guy at the police department because your people are happy, and it's the leader who sets the tone, who says, we're going to take care of ourselves. That doesn't mean we're hiding things. We're going to be corrupt. As Pat said, you're either doing things the right way or you don't work here. But it does mean things like we care about your nutrition, we care about your family, we care about, et cetera, et cetera. And how you think about the organizational culture is, I think, an ultimate expression of caring for the people that work in that agency and caring for the community. Before we get into any questions people have, I just want to point something out. We have a slight typo in one of the very early slides. It says, "What do I need to do to keep my money?" You should always read the legislation or follow the link we have on all this to make sure that you're tracking it from their site. The BSCC website's not the easiest or the thing to figure this out, but we have a slight typo where it says the annual reports, the first one's due December 1st, 2034. It's not 2034, it's 2023. And then the second one is due a year later. So you've got about 6 months or so before that report is due. So that's just a typo on our part. So, all right. So thanks, Pat and Lisa. If you have any comments, or I guess we have questions. An opportunity now. If anybody has any questions, we can answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you have a question, just use the raise hand function, and we'll get to those. We do have some that were put in the chat, and so the first question is: we are served by the Sheriff's Department. Are we entitled to money? Well, that is a great question, and we've done some research. It appears that we do not believe that the agencies served by another agency, such as the Sheriff's Department, are entitled to money directly. If you have a contract Sheriff's Department, then it appears that your agency is not on the state's list. And so what you're going to want to do is check with the Sheriff's Department, see if they got money. And if you have questions about how the money should be spent by your contracted Sheriff's Department, then you'll need to contact them. Jim and Pat, you took over from a sheriff, and Jim, if you have some thoughts about that.
No, I think you're right. The exception to that might be if you have other employees, like let's say a park ranger or somebody that falls under Penal Code Section 830.1. So look at PC 830.1, and that tells you who fits that category. If you have that class of employee, then you should have gotten some money. If you didn't, because you contract for your policing services with the Sheriff's Department, I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense. This is designed for employees. If they gave you the money for, let's say, the 30 deputies that you have working your city and the Sheriff's Department money for the same number of deputies they have, then there'd be a little bit of double dipping. So the money, I think it's the Department of Finance who provided those figures based on their understanding of how many cops are employed. But I think that's it. And I think the same thing may apply to university policing, either the Cal State system or the UC system. Again, you have to look at 830.1. If they didn't include university cops in that, that's probably an oversight, but it's a legislative oversight that is not easily corrected if that's the case. But you should check into that. 830.1, it guides all that.
Right. And then another question, people, I don't see any hands raised. We have another question in the chat, and that is, what do the reports entail? We've talked a little bit about the report. And so right now I'm going to share a screen with you. We have created this for you. And so this is the landing page. This will be put in the chat. This has all the documents on it. So there'll be a recording of the briefing, a PDF of the PowerPoint, a grant fact sheet, but also the link to the annual report filing website, the link to the final impact website, and how you report. And in fact, for a moment, we can just look at this is the report. This is the link you will be filling out at the end of this year and the end of 2024. Very simply, you have an agency name, you have a reporting year, et cetera, et cetera. It asks you a question. It wants to know the total amount that you spent, and it wants to know what you spent it for: physical health, emotional health, or other, and then the number of officers that were impacted. And then there's an optional file upload. Again, they're not looking very closely, but if you have things that you want to upload and want to share with them, then you can do that there. So that is, those are the questions about how to fill out the form. And I think we should be complete. I don't see any questions for people in the chat.
Hey, Lisa, I just wanted to mention that our budget and grants analyst, she's pretty whiz bang, but she says this is probably one of the easiest reports that we'll ever do on any money like this. So
Yeah. So,
I wouldn't anticipate, I was just gonna say, I wouldn't anticipate that all of them will look like this in the future, because that's just not the way government works. But this is pretty easy money to get to. It really is, because you already have it. So you didn't even have to apply for it. You just got it if you have that. I sent everybody my phone number and my email. If anybody has any questions or comments or whatever, if you want to talk about either this program or the Peace Officer Project and the Peace Officer Framework or whatever, you should feel free to ping me and let me know.
And so Raul has a question for everyone. And the question was, he was curious about how other departments are spending the funds. Well, we've heard about gym equipment, and then Chief Walsh, you can share you shared a little bit about what you're doing, the commercial grade refrigerator, and also with Healthy Meals. We know that agencies are doing training. We're in discussions with agencies about doing training. We offer peace officer training, which many of you know, which is the culture change part of officer wellness. And we're looking for that to be covered by agencies who want to use that as an other in terms of wellness, and other type of program that is evidence-based. And Jim, Pat, I don't know if you have any more comments about that, how agencies are using the money.
Pat, do you want to?
no, I wouldn't rule out the physical, having these. We have Pinnacle Fitness, but there's a couple of them in California that they come and take your blood and make you do some stretching exercise, all kinds of stuff. And then they kind of craft a workout / diet program for each individual person. It's all anonymous. Yeah, so that's good too. But I think, everybody, we all know that if you're not happy at work, then you're not really enjoying coming to work. So I would work on culture if that's an issue and first, but all of that kind of ties in. And like I said, we have enough money to do about 3 or 4 really good things. And we had already budgeted the money for the organization comes in and checks us, our blood and physicality. So we're going to take that money and reallocate it. So it's kind of win-win for us when it comes to that.
One thing I would highly recommend is ask your colleagues in the area that you happen to be in. Do you guys know about this money? And if so, what are you doing with it? And I preface it by saying, do you know about this money? Because I know of at least one agency where I had a conversation with the chief who did not even know they had received this money, didn't know about the program, didn't know they had the money, and the money had been sitting there since March. And somehow it just didn't happen. They didn't connect the dots internally. I have no idea how extensive that issue is, but just that simple question caused this particular chief to say, let's start thinking thoughtfully about the fact that we have this. They didn't even know they had it. So I do not know if that's a problem for more agencies than fewer. So I hope not. Do not lose the opportunity to spend the free money.
Right, and I have put in the chat the link. Again, I put in the chat the link to the website we put up with all the materials on it, recording of the session, the PowerPoint, also the links to how where you file the annual report, when you file it, the link to the final impact report, which is due in 2025, the expenditure report, and then also the contact information for the state controller's office. If you cannot find your check, we put a telephone number and an email which you can use to track down your check. Even if you can't find it with your city, or if you can't find it within the agency, go ahead and contact the state controller's office and they should be able to help you. Well, with no other questions, I think we are complete. Jim or Pat, did you want to say a few final words?
No, thanks for attending, and feel free to reach out to Pat. He put his email in there, or myself. My email and phone number are there, or Lisa. And if you have any interest whatsoever in learning more about the Peace Officer Project, call us or go to policetopeace.org. YouTube has several videos, and the website is very comprehensive and has lots of resources up there that you can use relate to all kinds of things. Police to Peace provides both online training and in-person training.
Lisa, I don't
Thank you
have
very
anything else.
much. Thank you.
Lisa, I don't have anything else to say. Just thank you. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm available.
Awesome. Well, when you think about it, I've heard this phrase recently, and the issue of wellness isn't unique to policing, but with the phrase, if you don't invest in your wellness, you'll end up paying for your illness, comes from the medical field. And so thank you for being here. We believe it's foundational to an officer wellness, officer health, that they work in a healthy environment. And so that's why I wanted to share with you the application of funds for culture change, for officer wellness around peace officers, a framework for policing. We thank you very much. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with all the resources on it. And have a great day. Stay safe out there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.